Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are joining us from, ladies and gentlemen. Can you hear me well?
Yes, very clear.
Perfect. Okay, perfect. It is a pleasure to welcome you to another AFRINIC webinar series. The webinar today is titled ICP-2 Review. This webinar will showcase the progress achieved so far in the ICP-2 review. The session will be also provide an introduction to the draft version of a document that aims to update ICP-2, which is called Criteria for Establishment of New Regional Internet Registries. This updated document is titled Governance Document for the Recognition, Maintenance, and Derecognition of Regional Internet Registries. The AFRINIC webinar series offers our community an opportunity to engage in dialogue on the current and future landscape of Internet accessibility and robustness in Africa. Before we begin, kindly type in the chat section to let me know if you can hear me, so it's done, and where you are joining us. If you have any success stories about African women, please put them on the chat. My name is Hervé Clément. I am the chair of the Number Resource Organization Number Council, NRO-INSI, and I will be your moderator in this session. On to some house rules. I am certain that most of us are familiar with the Zoom client application. However, it won't harm if we point out the key features on the platform that will make this session a much better experience. User interface. All controls are at the bottom of the screen. These controls include the chat icons, raise and icon, reactions, the poll, and the live transcription button. The Q&A section at the bottom of your screen can be used for any question relating to this session. Feel free to type in your question as the presentations are ongoing. Please ensure that your questions are relevant to the topic. These will be read out for the panelists to respond. All delegates can share your comments regarding the webinar in the chat. For any other issues relating to the Zoom platform, like your connectivity or any other, please use the chat sections and team members will assist. This webinar is in English, and the session is recorded and simultaneously transmitted live on AFRINIC's YouTube page, where the recording will be archived for your reference. While there, be sure to hit follow. We have been trying real hard to level up everything we do this year, and the only things we are going to ask is for you to hit follow on our social platforms. Thank you. Finally, this meeting shall abide by the AFRINIC Code of Conduct. Please be respectful as you engage with other participants in the webinar. The AFRINIC Code of Conduct and the event terms of condition are available on the AFRINIC website. Please take time to read them, and we will also post a link to the chat. In our webinar today, we are privileged to have also Andrzej Robalewski, who is a member of the NRO-NC as well, from the RIPE NCC service regions, Meimura Akinori from the AFRINIC regions, who is also a member of the NRO-NC, and a special guest, Hans-Peter Hollen, who is the CEO of the RIPE NCC, and Nick Nugent, with the vice chair of the NRO-NC. I propose the four people I've introduced to introduce themselves and propose to start with Hans-Peter.
So thank you. Apologies for not having much of a voice today. So I was more like planning to listen in, but my name is Hans-Peter Hollen, and while my day job is the CEO of the RIPE NCC, I'm also the chair of the NRO-EC this year, and that's why I'm attending today. Thank you.
Thank you, Hans-Peter. Nick?
Hi, everyone. Nick Nugent, and as Hervé mentioned, I'm the vice chair or one of the two vice chairs of the ASOAC. also one of the members of the drafting team for this document. So happy to be participating and happy to answer any questions about the governance document.
Thank you, Nick. Akinori?
Yes, hello everyone. My name is Akinori Maimura. I'm from Japan. I'm a member of the NRAC from the Asia Pacific region. Thank you very much.
And Andre?
Hi everyone, Andrei Rybachevsky. I'm also a member of NRNC from the RIPE NCC region.
Thank you, Andre. And I think so we can start the presentation. And to have the presentation more lively, we thought about simple questions that can be be displayed like a poll. So I think that it's you, Brice, who can send the first questions. Okay, so this presentation is about ICP, which is so we will explain what it is, ICP. You have 5 possibilities. So do you know currently how many ICPs exist? So I let Brice manage the time.
Yes, every tell me if you want, like, give me 1 more minute for them to respond, or we end and share the result.
Okay. And at the same time, I will ask if everybody is able to see the presentation on the screen.
Yes, we can see it. It's behind the poll.
Okay.
50% of the attendees have responded, so can I stop it now?
Okay. Perfect. Thank you. And do you have any specific answers?
Should I can now share the results?
Okay.
Over to you,
So
Alan.
it's pretty shared. So most of the attendees ask and answer 2. They think that there are 2. So it's an internet coordination policy. It's an ICANN document and displayed via the ICANN website. So we have or 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, and it's not the majority that time who's right, because so there are currently 3 internet coordination policy. The ICP-1 is called Internet Domain Name System Structure and Delegation, in brackets CCTLD Administration and Delegation. The second ICP is the ICP-2, so one we are talking about today, is the criteria for establishment of new regional internet registries. And ICP-3 is called the unique authoritative route for the DNS. And thank you for your answer and participation to this first question. Okay, so I will start to comment the slide I have. Okay. So the slide we cover different topic. Very shortly, what is the ASOAC, the Address Supporting Organization Address Council? We will talk about the ICP-2 and the work we are performing now, the ICP-2 review. What are the backgrounds, the process and timeline? the principals consultation that happened before, the introduction to the draft regional internet registry governance document, then consultation on participation options, and the next steps of the work. So I will start the presentation, and then Akinori and then Andre will follow me after that. About the NRO-NC, so Number Resource Organization, Number Council, there are two names because the number, one more time, the NRO-NC is comprised by definition from people from the community of the different regions. And the NRO-NC fulfill the function of the ASO-AC. The ASO-AC is one of the supporting organization of the ICANN. That's the reason one, there are two names. One for the group of people forming their organization, and one from the structure of the ICANN. The ASO-AC, what it is and what's the purpose. So it was established by ICANN to advise on Internet number resource policy. That's the primary function in the ICANN. The ASO-AC is comprised of normally 15 members, 3 from each regional internet registry regions, but you know that currently there is as no election were possible till now. We have no member from the AFRINIC. And in each regions, 2 are elected by the community, and 1 member is appointed by the regional internet registry. How long do members serve in this supporting organization? It varies by regions. And what are the specific roles of the ASO-AC is to advise the ICANN board, to oversee the global policy development process. So the global policy is a policy common to every regions and deals with the interaction of the global IANA, so the function within the ICANN to allocate numbers on the different regions. We have the role to appoint 2 members to the ICANN board of directors. There are approximately 20 directors in the ICANN board. They are on the ASO-AC, and the ASO globally is responsible of the election of 2. And we appoint 1 member to the ICANN nominating committee. So the nominating committee within the ICANN has the role to appoint members or people to strategic functions within the ICANN. We meet monthly, generally at the beginning of the month, and normally there is 1 person meeting at the beginning of the year. And to have a more view I would say a real view of what the council is. Which are some pictures of the people comprising this organization. In 2025, we have a tough job. We conduct the election for the seat 10 of the ICANN board. So normally the result will be official very soon. The seat 10 is currently filled by Christian Kaufmann from the RIPE NCC region. So it's to or renominate or to replace him, knowing that the seat 9 is filled by Alan Barrett, who was at the past the CEO of the AFRINIC. We still monitor and support global policy development process, if any, and that's the goal of this presentation. We conduct the ICP-2 review process. The ICP-2 review, so what it is, this review, and what are the process and the timeline. So what is the ICP-2? So I talk a little about that. The definition of that is Internet Coordination Policy 2, and this document provides criteria for recognizing new regional internet registry. That's the primary function. Example of criteria that are used to recognize new regional internet registry. For example, these regions have to be sufficiently large to be proposed as a service regions. They must support and they need to have the support of local numbering community as well, and they must show technical capability and to have all the documents and to be able to read all the documents. So you have the link here to the ICANN on what it is, this document, which was adopted in 2001. And I talk about 2001, so there is a piece of history here. There was a lot of events in the past. In 1992, it was the RIPE NCC that was established. Then in 1993, the AFRINIC. And then in 1997, it was the ARIN for the America. And then, because it was then, the ICANN was established in 1998. And the ICP-2 document I was talking about for the recognition of new regional internet registry was adopted after work within the ASOAC, was adopted in 2001. And this document served to the establishment on 2 additional regional internet registry. In 2002, it was the LACNIC for the Middle and South America, and the AFRINIC was established in 2005. ICP-2. I said that ICP-2 was adopted in 2001. So if my calculations are correct, ICP-2 is nearly 25 years old now. And you can imagine that after a quarter of century, the internet has changed over. And also the relationships between the regional internet registry and the ICANN and between each other, of course, had changed also. That was one of the reasons to revisit ICP-2. And this document needs to be more explicitly and need to provide for a regional internet registry ongoing responsibility, because the criteria I talk about was only used for the creation and the recognition, but it has to be used also for the ongoing life of the a regional internet registry, and in extreme case, to be used for a potential derecognition of a regional internet registry that can no longer adequately provide for the need of its numbering community. That's the reason why, so there's 2 reasons I was talking about. That's the reason why the NRO-EC, so which is the NRO Executive Committee, sorry, composed of the 4 current CEO of the regions, and Hans-Peter is the chair of that. So on October 2023, the NRO-EC asked the ASOAC to help with 2 specific tasks aimed at strengthening the regional internet registry system. First of the task is the ICP-2 implementation procedure. So we had the task to review and to advise the NRO-EC on its draft procedures for validating and addressing ongoing regional internet registry compliance with ICP-2 implementation procedure. So that was the part that the criteria has to be used for the ongoing life of a regional internet registry and potentially deregistration. And the second task is to strengthen ICP-2, is to revise the document to make the regional internet registry system more accountable to the internet community. And you have the link if you want to learn more about that. The timeline. So after this request for the NRO-EC, we 1 year later, in October 2024, we published a proposed set of 24 core principles to be included in the next version of ICP-2. And after that, there was a consultation and a regional consultation and an ICANN consultation for the community to provide comments about this principle. And between December 2024 and February 2025, the ASOAC reviewed community feedback on the ICP-2 principle documents that were received. The 24th of February, we published the ICP-2 questionnaire summary report. So that's the set of the different answer that was provided during the consultation. On the 14th of April 2025, we published a draft, which is called Regional Internet Registry Governance Document, and launched another community consultation. So we are now on the way of this consultation. This consultation is now open, everybody, and so we will talk about that. Everybody is free to participate in that consultation. And this consultation will be closed the 27th of May. During the ICANN 83 in Prague, the ASOAC will review the feedback received, and taking into account the different feedbacks, the revised Regional Internet Registry Governance document will be published. And finally, in the last quarter of 2025, there will be a final review and revision of the updated document, and there could be the start of an error on ICANN approval and adoption process regarding this document. And you have here, so what I talk about the timeline, and we are now in progress regarding the public comment on draft. So it's here. And so during this consultation period, the draft will be made available to the Internet community and presented to the Regional Internet Registry and ICANN communities for a consultation and discussion period before the final review and approval and adoption. And with that, I will stop myself, and I think it's you, Akinori, to comment the following slide. So don't hesitate to say to me when I can change the slide.
Thank you very much, Herbert. Thank you. My name is Akinori Maimura again, and then I will walk you through the proposed principles to update ICP-2 part, and which is completed. So as you have seen the chart, we have the twofold the consultation process. One is the consultation for the principle, and then the result of the consultation for the principle is reflected to the drafting process of the draft RIR governance document. So for the first turn of the consultation process, which is for the core principles, we had quite suggestive feedback from the community. We had two consultations, which is one of which is the ICANN public comment process, and the other is our RIR questionnaire process. We had quite a number of the responses received, which many of which are so suggestive for us. And then the responses were analyzed, and then summary report of the RIR questionnaire was published in February 2025, which was actually the really our NRNC's due process for the 2 or 3 days. We had quite a due consideration put into your feedbacks. So that now we have some. I'd like to introduce some process for the core principle consultation. Next slide, please. That's already available. If you can scan this QR code, and you can that takes you to the link for the consultation report, and then the following 2 pages are just shown as an example of the consultation report. Next slide, please. It's actually, if you read through it, it will take time. We have the really, the due consideration on the every response, which is actually analyzed to the, for example, that we had many identical response, and then it is actually segmented into one group. So then we had a qualitative analysis on these responses. Then this summary report actually, even that the name of the summary report, it is a really detail of our analysis for the every feedback. So you will find it really the deep analysis we took for that. Next slide, please. So this is quite an example. So if you have time and your time allows, then I'd like to ask you for reading that. Next slide, please. So as I said, the community feedback was so suggestive, and then we had quite four categories of the quite variable feedback from the community. One thing is that we actually made the good clarification on our content of the draft governance document. So, for example, the role of the community, RIR decision implies a corresponding process that is necessary according to the RIR model. Then we had the quite procedural concerns from the community feedback about the recognition and the derecognition procedures. So we had added the provision for the appeal and ICANN review process respectively, because there is many feedbacks which has had the concern of the appeal mechanism. So that's now quite a good suggestion for our process of drafting. And another thing is the aligned, meaning for the substantial amount of the concern for the corporate governance for the RIR. So it is quite reinforced in our drafting process. And last but not least, we put the additional elaboration to our drafting process, and then which is addressing the concern and the questions for the principles. So it is we so appreciate these variable feedback from the community. Next slide, please. So based upon this variable comment, we put our own effort to the drafting process of the RIR governance document, and then now I am passing the floor to the Andrei Robatevsky, and he is walking through for this RIR governance document draft. Thank you, Andrei.
Yeah, and thank you, Akinori. And perhaps because we talked about another question, so regarding the poll, sure. If you agree, Brice,
okay,
if you
great.
can
Sorry about
stand. No, it's no problem, Akinori. So the second question. So Brice will share the question. So we talk about a draft. Have you read the specific draft? So finally, the answer is very simple. So did you read it? Did you have you not read it? Did you read it briefly, or did you read it completely? And I let Brice manage the time.
Hervé, we have over 50% of the attendees.
Okay.
So it's up to you if I should stop it now or.
I think you can stop now. Thank you, Brice. Okay, so one more time, the answer are so pretty balanced. So there is, I would say, half-half if we cut the briefly into two. 36% of the participants have not read the draft, so I encourage you to read it. Some of you read it briefly, okay, which is good. and 36% read it completely. So thank you for that. And with that, I give the floor to Andre.
Thank you, Hervé, and thank you, Akinori, for your parts, presenting your parts. And yeah, interesting to see the results from the poll. I hope that that will make my job easier. But do not take my presentation as a replacement for reading the document. So really, as Hervé said, I encourage you to read the document because it's a very detailed, and we put a lot of thoughts into putting words in the right order, so to say. So please read them, and your feedback is very much appreciated. This document is called Area Governance Document. We decided not to call it ICP-2 bis or ICP-4, partly because ICP-2 series is a bit disconnected. It's not a series anymore. It was all the three documents. They were created at the beginning of 2000, and there is no real documented process how you develop those documents. So we thought we need to establish a separate series on the area governance, and that would be the first document replacing the ICP-2. As you read the document, and I'll probably point to that, you will see that there is some provisions on how the revisions of this document are going to be performed, in what conditions, and what the process is following. So that makes further revisions of this document more regular and more transparent. Still, the area governance document is a working title. That's what the drafting team suggested, and it's also open for your feedback. So you can get excited and suggest interesting names for this document. That will be also appreciated. So in this part of my presentation, I really would like to present the document, not the details, but mainly how this document differs from the original ICP-2. And it differs in four, I would say, significant ways. First, it clarifies the scope and it covers the whole life cycle management of an area, of an organization. There was a question in the chat about why the recognition showed up here. So if you look at the ICP-2, it's really only about recognition. And then you wonder what happens next, how the organization operates, under what conditions, and whether there is a possibility that this organization can be shut down or can cease to exist for some reason. We try to formalize some of the important governance structures. It's still a very high-level document. It's still not far away from principles. By the way, as Akinori said, we got a lot of feedback discussing how those principles could be implemented. Now, they didn't find their way in this document. We saved these discussions and your thoughts for the time when real implementation procedures will be developed. But this document is not about how the principles are implemented. They're really about the high-level requirements. So again, while we formalized some important governance structures, we didn't go into specific governance of a particular area. I think that's left to a particular area and its community. We introduced the operational requirements as the whole life cycle, what is there, and we clarified roles, responsibilities, and procedures where necessary procedures are concerned. Next slide, please. Okay, well, let me just go in a little bit more detail into these four areas. So as I said, the ICP-2 just said, hey, those are requirements for a new area when the area could be created. What happened next? So if you look at just general organization, it is being created, then it has sort of operational phase, and then maybe it stops to exist for whatever reason. So the document now covers criteria, ongoing obligations, and the conditions under which the organization could be potentially derecognized. So this brings more clarity, more predictability, and more transparency to the whole system, in our opinion. Next slide, please. Governance structure. So again, as I said, we're not going into dictating specific governance structures to be used by an area, but the document outlines high-level requirements that those governance structures should meet in order to contribute to a stable, transparent, and well-functioning area system? Well, first of all, it's member-controlled governance. So the majority of an area governing body must be elected by its members. It's good practices for the corporate governance. I think that's a normal for any organization, but we felt we need to make it more explicit. And also requirements to ensure that there are controls in the governance structure that prevent any single entity or group from gaining undue influence over an area. This is just to underpin the community nature and this bottom-up governance thing that were the feature of the areas and make the area success. Next slide, please. The document strengthens operational requirements. ICP-2 is quite vague and not very elaborative on that side. It basically just emphasizes technical capabilities and the provision of registration services. But as the system matured, we know that this is just not enough. There are much more to that, such as maybe periodic audit and what are required for the necessary transparency that should be across the board, where the documents, including financial documents and governance documents and activity plans, should be transparent, accessible to the members and larger community. And continuity planning. Now, the system is strong as the whole and as weak as its weakest link. So we need to plan for continuity. And those requirements are put in place according with privacy and good corporate practices. Again, without any implementation details, the document specifies some of the important requirements for continuity planning. Next slide, please. And finally, clarification of roles, responsibilities, and procedures. There were a lot of feedback regarding the role of the area, NROEC, ICANN. We took this feedback on board and tried to clarify those roles, make it more clear. As you can see from the original ICP-2, where ICANN was probably the only body that was clearly specified, which role was clearly specified in making a decision about recognition of an area. Now there are more entities that are involved in this decision-making process. Areas, ICANN, some of the procedures. We specifically didn't put any specific bodies such as NROEC, for instance, in the decision-making. So when you see area, you should assume that it actually implies the area and its decision-making process that is adopted according to the governance of this area, which might include, community consultations, board decisions. I mean, it depends really. So the document doesn't prescribe any particular decision-making process inside the area. That's why we put this as area in the document. Next slide, please. So on the 14th of April, the document was published and the consultation is open. It will last till the 27th of May, 2025. So there's some time to read the document and make up your mind and provide feedback, more importantly. Next slide, please. Well, there's some guidance for feedback. We really appreciate if you share feedback specific to this draft. That's very important for us. Specifically, we're interested in hearing your views on new stuff that was introduced in the draft. Whether it provides sufficient clarity, whether the reading of the draft is clear, even for non-English readers, and if applications are non-ambiguous. Keep in mind, as I said, that this document doesn't address the implementation of ARIA criteria. Yeah. So comments on implementation, of course, we'll take them and save them, but they don't expect that they will be in the draft. Also, the document is really an update to the ICP-2. It doesn't try to redesign the ARIA system from scratch. There might be some ideas how in a different world the ARIA system could function, but that's not the purpose of this document. And of course, constructive comments are highly appreciated. The more constructive they are, the easier our job to digest them and put in the next version of the document. Next slide. So please follow the discussions. Those are some URLs that you can use. There is a section on the NRO website dedicated to the ICP-2. There is a subsection on community engagement. You can see how you can engage in different regions, not just AFRINIC region. So please go visit this page, scan the QR code, and engage. Next slide. So this is how to participate in AFRINIC region. If you haven't subscribed to the ICP-2 review mailing list, please do so. There is already some discussion there, and be active. That is very important. The mailing list is transparent. The archives are published. So even if you're not subscribed, you can still look at the archives and see what discussions are. And also we are organizing this session, and maybe organize another one to stimulate feedback, to raise awareness about this document and provide some clarifying answers. Next slide, please. Other community engagements are also planned. Next slide. Okay, I'm a bit sort of confused. Okay, yes, there is also ICANN participation that will running in parallel with area participation. So in each of the area region, there is a separate mailing list which in which members engage or participants engage. There is also ICANN public comment open until 27th of May. You can use this process. So all these opportunities are not restricted to particular geographic community. Feel free to join any mailing list, any consultation, and provide your feedback. Now, keep in mind, the more times you provide the same feedback, it doesn't make this feedback more valuable, right? We are really looking qualitative analysis of this. So please, the substance really matters here. Next slide, please. So yes, that's an important deadline, the 27th of May. After 27th of May, we'll do the similar job that we did for the questionnaire. The team will analyze all the feedback and will start working on the next version of the draft that will be published afterwards. And next slide. I wondered, yes, I expected that would be a thank you. So thank you for listening.
And thank you, Akinori Andre. So we are the last question on the poll, but as the time is flying, I propose not to ask the question and to go to the question. But before that, so as Nick joined us, I don't know if you have additional comments regarding all the description we have done.
No, you all did a great job. We've also gotten some great questions on the Zoom Q&A. I've responded to some, others have as well, and I'm continuing to answer some responses by typing. So
okay.
Nothing further orally from me. Thanks.
Thank you so much. So I didn't have the opportunity to read the question, but perhaps Nick, Andrea, Akinori, you did it, and probably they could have question on audio as well. I don't know. So I stop the sharing my slide and go to the questions.
And Hervé, one option, it's totally up to you how you'd like to conduct it, is, as I mentioned, we've been responding to the Q&A in the Q&A chat feature by typing responses. One option is if you wanted to, I think we have 3 pending questions now. We could also just respond to them in real time.
Okay, so what I propose as you read the question, so I propose, if you agree, Nick, is to perhaps read the remaining questions you didn't answer.
Sure.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Yes, we have a question from David Ong. He says, the revised ICP-2 should include the idea of portability of number resource between RARs. Today, inter-RAR transfers exist in a gray area, creating confusion and inefficiency, leaving networks unsure of their options. ICP-2 must provide clear universal rules for portability, and RARs need uniformity to streamline operations. Is the portability of number resource within RAR considered as a standard right for all internet users during the drafting of revised ICP-2? Thanks very much for the question. We've also seen this question in other fora, so it's great that we'll have an opportunity to address it now. Currently, the draft of the RAR document, the RAR governance document, it speaks to how the global RAR system is structured, so including recognition, operation, and derecognition of RAR. So it's a very structural document in that regard. It does require RARs to provide a policy development process and for members to be able to participate in that process and for the RARs to apply those policies in an impartial manner. Beyond that, though, the RAR governance document doesn't go into the specific policies that any RAR must have. And there are many reasons for that, including many considerations might go into that. Each RAR might be different. Taking just, for example, the issue of inter-RAR transfers, there could be a number of considerations, including the threshold requirements for use in region, fees, limitations, timing. It just gets into a lot of detail that we don't feel like we can come up with all of the details in a global document that applies to everyone. I see that Hans Petter has raised his hand. I'll talk for a little bit longer and then I'll hand it over to him if he wants to comment on this question. So the long and the short of it is that we don't get into dictating specific policies on any issue to RARs in the governance document for the reasons I mentioned. Hans Petter, did you want to pick this up?
Yeah, thanks for an excellent analysis here, Nick. I think in addition to that, I would point to two other elements that makes this question, a very interesting discussion. In some regions, I can speak for the RIPE NCC, we have the distinction with provider independent and provider aggregatable addresses. So provider independent is an address space that you could take from one provider to another. Now, would number portability means that provider aggregatable space, something you got from your ISP, also mean that you should be able to port that to another ISP. Historically, there has been a clear no to that because we want to aggregate routes in the routing system. So this is very much addressing policy and has been discussed extensively over the years through the different policy for us. And when you think about number portability as the concept that you have in the world of mobile phones, you can't see it here. The equivalent of number portability in the internet is domain names. So you have a domain name and you can use that to point to your service and you can move your service from provider to provider. So I think the whole concept of portability of IP addresses is worthy of discussion, but I fully agree with you. It may not belong in the principles for an RAR document.
Yeah, and I'll just say an additional thing. This is all, as with every aspect of the current draft of the RAR document, this is our best attempt to formulate what we think is the right document, the right set of procedures, and the right scope. And we're not foreclosing any suggestions or possibilities, subject to the caveat that, as Andre noted, we're not getting into procedural details and not sort of reimagining the whole RAR system. But we welcome these comments about portability. We welcome arguments about them and really any other aspect of the governance document. But currently, that's our thinking about why the document is not getting into setting individual policies for individual RARs.
Thank you. Thank you. So you say there was two additional questions?
Yeah, well, there's some more. Looks like the next two take a similar theme about RAR, number portability between RARs. There's another question here, and I see that Bryce notes that there's some other questions from the audience, people raising their hands. I'll just answer this one from an anonymous attendee and then hand it over to Bryce. But someone asked, was this also triggered by the problems that AFRINIC is having? What we'd put that is that AFRINIC was a catalyst in that the document is 25 years old, or almost 25 years old. ICP-2. A lot has changed in a quarter century, not surprisingly, which is an eternity in internet land. And it isn't just the need to provide for derecognition. Even the way that numbers are allocated and used has changed dramatically over the last 25 years. So there's long been an acknowledgement that ICP-2 needed to be updated, of which clarifying the possibility and procedures around derecognition were just some considerations. AFRINIC was a catalyst in that it heightened the need to revise ICP-2, but it wasn't the only thing. And just, I think it bears mentioning, we've said it many times, but the purpose of this revised document is not to simply target or affect AFRINIC. The purpose is to provide for the health and well-structured ordering of the global RAR system. So it was, again, an important consideration, but is certainly not the sole consideration or even the sort of most proximate thing that we're thinking about.
Okay, thank you. Brice told me also that there are questions from the audience, apparently, and just a short message from me, and I have to send my apologize. I will have a constraint at the top of the hour. I will leave, so it's not because I am not interested by the subject. Absolutely not. But so my colleagues will be very happy to support all the discussion and question we have, because it's very important to have outputs from the community. So I don't know, perhaps if you have, Nick, other things to have on the chat, or we can give the floor to the audience.
Yeah, I think Bryce is going to take it away or at least moderate. We can ask questions now.
10 minutes ago.
Yeah, yes. Okay, thank you, Hervé. So we have Kennedy wants to ask the question to the panelists directly. So
okay, Kennedy.
Yeah, I'm going to speak in French. I don't know.
Oh, okay. So you can, and I will translate. Or Brice can translate as well.
Ok. Ok. Je voudrais d'abord remercier le niveau de présentation et de partage actuel sur le sujet auquel l'Afrique devrait vraiment s'y intéresser, surtout le sujet afrinique. Donc, pour moi, c'est juste des commentaires pour dire que vraiment, c'est un plateau très intéressant pour nous, afin qu'on puisse, d'ici peu, les élections à venir d'Afrique, on puisse avoir une lumière et une bonne position pour l'Afrique. Juste un commentaire. Merci et courage.
Merci beaucoup, Kennedy. And just for my colleagues to translate, it's very easy. It's a full support about the work we made regarding ICP-2. It's very useful inter alia for the AFRINIC community. And Kennedy talked about the next election in June in AFRINIC, so it's not really correlated so with the work, but it could highlight and give light to the different events. So it was a support, so thank you, Kennedy.
Thank you, Ade. We have another hand. I think it's going to be the last one because it's almost time. So over to you, Geoffrey. You can speak now.
Okay, Geoffroy.
Oui, bonsoir. Je suis désolé d'avoir pris la réunion très en retard. J'étais dans une autre réunion, donc je n'ai pas suivi tout ce qui a été dit. Donc, ça va être difficile pour moi d'intervenir dans des échanges. Je pensais pouvoir rattraper la réunion, mais je suis revenu dans la réunion très tardivement. Toutes mes excuses pour ça.
Aucun problème. Merci beaucoup en tout cas d'assister déjà à cette partie de la réunion. Merci Geoffroy. So Geoffroy just say he apologized not to be able to be at the very beginning of the meeting, even if he wished too, and was very happy by the end as well. So another support, and thank you.
Okay.
We have two last questions in the chat in the Q&A feature, but I think that when we are done with the last two questions, Eve can now close the webinar because we are
Okay,
5 minutes to
perfect.
the event. So we have two questions in the Q&A feature. If you guys can take them, and after that, Eve, you can please.
Okay, so one more time. So it was really a pleasure to have participate and to animate with this webinar. It's really, really important for us to be present and to interact with the AFRINIC community of this subject. So one of the reasons also is because we have currently no AFRINIC representative within the SOAC. So it's things we regret, and so we try our best to make the AFRINIC community participate in. And this webinar is one of the way to do. Really, don't hesitate, and we encourage you to read the draft. To participate.
I'm sorry, your comments sound like closing comments, and I think Bryce was inviting us to answer the two remaining questions in the Q&A.
Oh, okay. So because I thought it was via the chat only written, but if you can, no, I absolutely no problem.
Okay. Yes,
Absolutely.
okay, please.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll try to do it quickly, just given the time constraint.
Just but do it quickly if you want.
Okay,
Nick.
sure. I'll do
useful.
it. I can do it faster orally than typing anyway. Okay, great. One question from Jen Vermeulen. AFRINIC is in a fairly interesting position in that it still has IPv4 addresses in its free pool. Will the handling of precious resources like that in the event of derecognition be handled in ICP-2? Good question. This would, speaking to what Andre said earlier, this is a great example of where the document does not get into many of the deep procedural details around how things would operate in practice. The document just simply doesn't get into that level of detail. It's a good question. It would, whether it's AFRINIC or any RIR, of course, that question would need to be answered in the moment, but the document doesn't get into that level of deep procedural detail. Alex Corenthin asked, unless I'm mistaken in the draft document, I noted that the nomination process can be requested by 25% of the members. What is the reason that led to this percentage? Why not, in this case, respect the rule of majority or consensus of the members as practiced in the ICANN community? Another good question. This was actually an addition that was suggested by the NROEC, and I would defer to them as to why they chose this particular percentage, but I'll just note that 25% here is not a voting threshold. That's, I think, the reason why it wasn't selected as a majority. Rather, it's just a trigger to invite a consideration of a potential new RIR. And I see that Hans Petter has raised his hand, so I'll defer to him on that.
Yeah, thanks for that, Nick. So you're spot on. In many bylaws, such as RIPE-NCC article, for instance, it's a very low number of members that has the right to bring things to the general meeting, right? So how low that percentage should be? Should it be 10%? Should it be 50%? We settled for somewhere in between. So it's a significant amount, but you don't need a majority to start the considerations, right? The considerations as such is not fatal. That's just an indication that, somebody needs to look into it. But yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Hans Petter.
Just maybe to add to what Nick said to Jan's question. As Nick said, that this is really a procedural thing, but this is a very important aspect. Now, the document has provisions for continuity. So if you look at the derecognition section, it has handoff. So ideally, there should be no interruption in the services as the sort of, new area emerges and one area is derecognized. If you feel that some things need to be articulated better, please send your comments to the list and we'll certainly consider that. Thank you.
Yeah, and just to pile on to what Andre said, which maybe this can our closing remark, an anonymous attendee said, can we suggest some new sections to ICP-2? Our answer is absolutely, please do. We're happy to entertain any and all suggestions. We can't promise that they'll end up in the document, but this is a participatory process, so please do send us your suggestions.
And thank you. So we are nearly, so thank you. So one more time, very useful. We are nearly, and we are at the top of the hour now. Thank you for the participation of everybody. This session has been registered. So the AFRINIC will provide you, the AFRINIC staff will provide you so the links to that, so you can so re-listen to that. One more time, participate to the consultation, and we will be very happy and available to answer any questions. And with that, I thank you, everybody, and the panelists and the participants of this webinar and the AFRINIC as well.